Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, new perennials for 2019. These are all coming. These are all being distributed in Ontario and across Canada for Blue Sky's Nurseries. Now, this means that Blue Sky is not going to sell to the homeowner. They are wholesale. But by doing this, you can know what you're looking for when you go out to your local garden centers. You will also be able to ask if they carry it, or maybe even get them to carry it. So let's start with the second most popular perennial in North America, the hosta. The first one that's new is Beach Boy. Now, this is a hosta that has got a thick yellow-green leaves with a blue margin, clusters of large white flowers in midsummer. The plant is 16 by 20 inches high and 20 by 24 inches wide. It's got good slug resistance, and that's something we always should look for, right? Now, the next one is Blue Elf. Blue Elf has got a true powdery blue leaves, larger leaves compared to other of the miniature varieties, lavender flowers that blooms in midsummer. It's only 6 inches tall, and it's only 12 inches wide. It likes full to part shade. So remember, full to part shade. A lot of the smaller ones, a lot of the blues, give the best color in a little bit of shade. Now, the next one is another hosta, and it is one that I think a lot of people should carry or grow, but may not be the easiest one to find. This is called Secret Ambition. It's a powdery blue-green leaves bordered by a yellow margin, turning to a creamy white in the summertime. So you get some change. That's always good. The flowers are white. They bloom in late summer. The plant is about 1/2 to 1 foot tall and only about 1.5 feet wide. Full to part shade. And I think you'll like that one because it is a little different. Now, here's one that really caught my eye. This one's called Sleeping Star. Sleeping Star is a blue-green leaves with a broad yellow margin, which transitions into a creamy white in the summertime. Lavender flowers, blooms in midsummer. It's 1 foot tall and 1.5 feet wide. Being a little smaller, it can be put in a lot of places. Now, the next one is, of course, Tootie May. Blue-green leaves with a wide, broad yellow margin. Lavender flowers that bloom in early summer. It's 1.5 feet tall, and it's 3 to 3.5 feet wide. So it's a little bigger, and definitely one that you want to. Now, I sort of like some of the bigger ones as well, as they can sometimes, once you get them established, almost replace a plant in the shade. So here's a hosta that's not new, been around a while. It's called T-Rex. It's green, it's dull, broadly ovate, wavy leaves with a slight rippled margin. It's moderate rate of growth, which means it's going to take you a little bit of time to get it to full size. The flowers are white tubular and bloom in early to midsummer. Now here's the thing. It's 3 feet tall and it's 7 feet across. And it likes the partial shade to even full shade. So it'll give you something that you can go and use in the shade for something as a replacement for a shrub. Water slide is another hosta. It is lavender flowers, medium, narrow, ruffled, deep blue leaves. Now, it blooms in midsummer. It's 1 foot tall, and it's 2.5 to 3 feet wide for partial shade to full shade. And what you'll find is this one is so distinctive, it'll stand out from the others. Another one I like, okay, now, this is not a new one. It's called Wiggles and Squiggles. I love the name to begin with. Purple shaded flowers, bright yellow, long, narrow leaves with thin, wavy margins and wiggled edges. Forms a low, wide habit. It blooms in midsummer. It's 1/2 foot to 1 foot tall, and it's 2 feet across. Partial shade to full shade, and it will, of course, stand out as well because it is so different from the others. Now, there's also Volcano Island. Now, Volcano Island has yellow leaves with dark green margins, red petioles, okay, that's neat, lavender flowers that bloom in the summer. It's 1 foot tall and 2.5 feet across and likes full 2-part shade. So, not bad. And it'll be a little different than the others. Good contrast. Now, if we move into some of the newer perennials as well, what you'll find is that there are always newer perennials coming along. And this one is an allium. This is called Nodding Onion. Lilac pink pastel bell-shaped clusters of flowers. They're narrow grass-like leaves. Blooms in spring and early summer. It's 1 to 1.5 feet tall, and it's 1/2 to 1 foot wide, full sun, part shade. This one is in the allium family, the onion family, and it is, in my opinion, one that's distinctly different and therefore going to stand out. People are going to look at it and go, did the flowers open? No. They just sort of hang in clusters and look like, almost like teardrops. Amsonia is storm cloud. Its common name is blue star. It has a light periwinkle blue star-shaped flowers, near black stems which emerge in the spring and keep their color through the spring. Blooms in late spring to early summer. It's 2 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and it loves full sun to part shade. And this one can really stand out. If you got the right location for it, it's great. It is a native cultivar, so it's something that you might want to add to a native garden. Anemones. Now, these anemones are the Japanese anemones. They are what's also known as the autumn anemones. They're more of a large perennial than small. The first one is called Curtain Call Deep Rose. And the dark rose pink flowers with a double row of petals, which means it's double. Shorter variety, flowers are positioned just above the foliage. Blooms in late summer to early fall. See, it's going to extend the season. And it is going to be 1 to 1.5 feet tall and 1 to 1.5 feet wide. It does love the sun, but it will tolerate part shade. The other one is Curtain Call Pink, and it does everything that the Curtain Call Deep Rose does, except, of course, it's a double rose pink. So it's got the same size, same conditions, and therefore it'll be a little lighter, softer pink. You get to choose what you think is going to look best with the other plants around it. So it's always great. Remember, there are white ones and there are singles. So in this group as well, which you can use, there is some also mauve ones, so that you can go in and actually go and contrast them as well with those older varieties. Now, the next one is Aruncus. Now, Aruncus is an interesting plant. It's called goat's beard. When I was teaching perennials at Niagara College, an Aruncus was always on the perennial list. It's a substitute for a shrub. It has sprays of creamy-colored, lacy flowers which emerge in late spring and early summer and cover the deep green foliage. So in other words, lots, right? Lots of flowers. It tends to be a slow grower the first couple of seasons and then can grow to about 30 to 32 inches with a spread of 40 to 48 inches. It's drought tolerant, full sun to full shade. So you will like this one. Now, the regular Aruncus, the goat's beard, does all of that, except that it's 4 to 6 feet tall and 2 to 4 feet wide, and prefers a well-drained soil and partial shade. So you make sure you're getting the one that fits your conditions better. European wild ginger. Now I love this one. It seeds throughout my garden. It keeps showing up where I least expect it. So you should be aware of that. It's an evergreen. It's an evergreen perennial that doesn't look like one. It's got glossy green heart-shaped leaves about 3 inches across. And I've always found it here to be totally perennial. It creeps like a ground cover. It's only about 4 inches tall and maybe get to about 6. And then it's about 1 to 1.5 feet wide. It likes part to full shade. I tell you this, it does seed itself in the most peculiar places in my garden. Often I have to go and dig it up and move it to where I want it, but it'll do it in cracks. It'll in between sidewalks, foundations, between bricks. It'll seed itself in the garden, underneath plants, and many other places. So be aware and remember, it's shiny and it's going to be very nice. You're growing it for the foliage and certainly not for the flowers. Astilbe. There always seem to be new astilbes coming on. This one is cappuccino, and it's a fluffy white plumes, dark coffee-colored foliage, which I like. Now, there's a strong contrast of color. The blooms in early to midsummer. It's 2 feet tall and 1.5 feet wide, part to full shade. And I have grown it when you sometimes get adequate and perfect soil in full sun, but I don't recommend it, okay? Not for this particular variety. Many of the other astilbes will actually do that. They will take more sun than you would expect if you give it the right conditions and you're good at watering and provide the best. One of the perennials that I do like that's not new is Bergenia. Its common name is pig squeak. It's an evergreen, and it has coral pink flowers, green foliage, bell-shaped flowers from mid-spring to early summer. It's got a moderate rate of growth, 1 to 1.5 feet tall and 2 feet wide, full sun to part shade. I have to tell you that this one does like pretty nice soil and a little bit of fertilizer. Not a great deal, but a little bit after it flowers. There are ones that attract butterflies, so there are different varieties in this group as well. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.